Welcome to Rotoworld.com. This is a great website for sports news, fantasy sports news, and today's sports headlines. The top navigation bar contains flyout menus for each individual sport. Below the top navigation bar, you will see today's top story. To the right of today's top story are the headlines from each sport. To the left are the acronyms such as MLB, NBA, NFL, etc. for each sport, and the blurb containing the headline. Below both of these are the Media Center, which contains video clips or highlights, and below that is today's players' news. If you click on the tab for each sport, you will get a quick news headline that is useful information for any fantasy sports player. This will give you sleepers, which are players who are up and coming, injury reports, or any other news pertaining to your favorite team, your sports teams, or your fantasy teams. Articles that are written by fantasy sports enthusiasts, which give you their opinions on who to start, who to bench, and anything going around the league such as trades, etc. Since our focus will be on NBA news, go ahead and click on the NBA tab under Player News. Today's news around the NBA is listed below. If you scroll down, you will notice that there is different news stories from different teams. Now let's say you wanted to know more about a particular player or a team. When you go down to the player news, the information is organized from left to right. It starts out with the team's logo, the player's name, the player's position, and the team that they play for. To the far right is the date and the time that the news was issued. So for this instance, we have the Orlando Magic symbol, Keith Bogans as the player's name. He plays the guard position, and he plays again for the Orlando Magic. And this story was written, or this news information for Fantasy News, was written on December 4th, 1:29 a.m. Eastern Time. When you click on a player's name, their photograph and information will be given to you. You have the player's name, the position, the team that they play for, their height and weight, date of birth, age, and college they attended if they attended college. If not, it will mention the high school. 5 tabs: the main page, related news, previous news, career stats, and game log. We will discuss each section on the preceding slide. By clicking on the related news tab, you will receive news from that team, and that team only. Because we are on an Orlando Magic's player, the related news will only pertain to the Orlando Magic organization. The previous news tab will give you any past news on the current player selected. When the career stats tab is selected, you get the entire history of that player's NBA career, the years they played, and the statistical information, which is vital for any fantasy sports player. When selecting the game log tab, you get the statistical information from each game that the player has played during the current season. Let's say there was information you wanted to know about your favorite player, but it wasn't listed on the current news. Let's start by going back to the home page. Now that you have selected the search bar, let's type in a player name. I'm going to type in one of my favorite players for the New Jersey Nets, point guard Jason Kidd. Rotoworld.com operates a little bit differently than most search engines. Because this is strictly a fantasy sports site, it is going to list everybody by their last name, because there are so many players within all of the sports listed on the page. So let's go ahead and type in the last name of Jason Kidd, just K-I-D-D. As you can see, the last name Kidd came up with 2 results, one for NBA and one for NHL. If you were to do it by first name, you would get hundreds of results for the name Jason, because it's a common name. But because Kidd isn't as common as most last names with 2 Ds, this only came up with 2 results. Let's continue by clicking on the player name. For this example, I stuck with a basketball player. This is a secondary way for you to look up any of your fantasy sports players. Because I'm focusing on basketball, I typed in Jason Kidd, who I know plays point guard for my favorite team, the New Jersey Nets. You are sent to the players page that we covered earlier. Please fill out to the best of your ability a rating scale after viewing what Rotoworld has to offer for NBA fantasy sports news indicate your level of interest, thus concluding the presentation. Thank you for your time. Welcome to Roto